Hey! Alright, so I know in one of my How I Wrote Sprint Dreams videos, I made a promise that I was going to talk about the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing. So this will be pretty quick because there's plenty of resources out there, and I'll leave some links underneath just so you can look at that yourself. But to be short, traditional publishing is where you go through a publisher like HarperCollins. Versus self-publishing, where you are writing this book and you are publishing it by yourself. Self-explanatory, right? Okay, so for traditional publishing, this is typically the path that you go. You know, you click, write your book, you're like, oh my God, my manuscript's perfect, I love it, everybody else is gonna love it, yay. Okay, so you have your manuscript. After you get your manuscript, then you write a query. A query is sort of like a cover letter. It introduces who you are, what your story is, the story's word count, the target audience, and why a particular agent would like this book. So you can do a query and you can send out to masses, not recommended. Really, you should find an agent first, look at the agent's interests, and then tailor a query for that agent. Some things might stay the same, like if you include a section for your author bio, which you should, it's probably gonna stay the same. But for the most part, my fault. But for the most part, yeah, the query really should be tailored to each agent. All right, so the process of finding an agent, I believe I talked about that before, but I'll reiterate it, is, you have to pretty much, you just Google it, honestly. Networking helps too. It's just however you would meet people who are in your industry. So for me, I did a lot of Googling and I created a whole Excel sheet with the author's name, the organization that they're part of, the publisher organization that they work for, or they often have their own agencies, what they are interested in. So sometimes they have something called #MyWishList that they may have on their Twitter page, or they may have on a site. They may have their own websites where they show their interests, or it may be on the agency page. But they'll explain like what it is that they're looking for. And it is sometimes luck of the draw. So sometimes maybe they do focus on, let's say, thriller books, but you know, maybe they're just tired of it, or maybe they want to branch out or something, and all of a sudden they might be interested in middle grade. So it is sometimes luck of the draw, I'll be quite honest. Or sometimes they're just not accepting queries. That always really sucks. When you really feel like there's an agent and you know they would like your stuff, and then it's just like not taking unsolicited queries right now. I'm like, but it is what it is. Right, so you find your agent. What else is there? Oh yeah, contact information. Make sure you follow the rules of what they want when it comes to contacting. Okay, so if there's a form that they want, do that. If they don't want phone calls, which most of them don't call them about your book. If they do snail mail, if that's an option, you can do that. If they only do email, do that. If they do email, do they want attachments? How many words do they want? Make sure you follow those. You will have your email or have your query thrown out in a heartbeat if you do not follow their rules. Right? So after you find your agent, you write your query, you send it out. It could be, sometimes you'll get a response immediately. Other times it could be like weeks, sometimes even months before they respond. And then once they respond, typically they may ask for the full manuscript, they may ask for a bigger sample, something like that. So you can go about it that way. You know, whatever they ask, you send it. And honestly, even getting to that part, like if you've gone to that part, congrats, because you're dealing with a lot of competition out there when it comes to books and stories and manuscripts. So when they take the time to say, hey, we're more interested in this story, that's awesome. So where am I? Oh yeah, so they ask you for a bigger piece of your manuscript, send that out. That could be even more months before you even get a response for that. And it's a bit of a waiting game. Of course, there's plenty to do in that waiting game. So If your manuscript really is as completed as it is, you can start marketing, networking, start working on your next story. There's plenty to do in that time, but there is a good amount of time before you hear from an agent if you sent out your work to them. So then after that, let's say they like, oh, we love your manuscript, great, perfect. You have to deal with contracts, royalties. I didn't go that far. I went the self-publishing route that I'll talk about later. But you have to talk about that, and then they reach out to publishers, and then you have to wait and hope for the publisher, whatever publisher companies they reach out to accept your manuscript. And then once you go through that, there are some benefits. Once you can make it through those different rounds, so you really PR. You don't have to worry too much about PR. Marketing, you still have responsibility for, but in terms of PR, getting your book into newspapers, into journals, publishers should be pretty good with that. So there are those advantages of working with a publisher. Let's see. Yeah, let's talk about those. All right, so traditional publishing, what are some pros that I really wish I could have had some of those pros? One, like I said, you don't have to do a whole lot with working with like journalists and newspapers and things like that, because they do a lot of that for you. Also, they typically will have editors that they work with already, so you don't have to deal with spending the lots and lots of money for editors. I've probably spent like thousands of dollars on editors. What else is there? Getting your book into bookstores, onto bookshelves, and that's, so many writers' dreams is to be able to hold that book in their hands and to see it on a shelf. That's great. Depending on how big the publishing company is that accepts your work, they may have their own marketers as well. So you may not even have to worry too much about organizing a lot of your own book signings and interviews and things like that. They might handle that too. So there's a lot of benefits to traditional publishing. So let's talk about the cons. The cons of traditional publishing, one, you do have to handle still a lot of the marketing yourself, especially if you're dealing with a big publishing company, because if they have another big name person who has a book out, a lot of the marketing money and effort is going to go into that book. So especially for first-time authors, you really need to know your own marketing strategies as well, whether you're going traditional or self-publishing. Like I said, the time frame. Your book could have been done in 2018, and it might just now be hitting bookstores now, because once you kind of hand over your book to these publishers, they are in control of when things get published, when things get released. So you do lose a lot of that control. Speaking of losing control, again, they have editors that they work with. So even if an editor doesn't quite fit your writing style, you kind of don't really have much to say at that point. Same thing with a book cover. You don't really have much to say with a book cover as well. Now, the assumption is you're dealing with these very skilled, experienced publishers who know the standards of your genre and your target audience. So they know the ideal book cover, they know the ideal editors that will help you get that sound to be as marketable as possible. But that may not always be the case. Again, didn't go that route, so it's kind of whoever has other says in that, by all means. Let's see, in terms of other cons, the time frame, like I said, very long. That's about it. So that is one route. If you have experience with one or the other, or if you have a preference, of course, comment below. Obviously, check out my novel, Spring Dreams. It releases June 1st. You can get it on Amazon, and I'm super excited. I'm so grateful for everybody who has really joined me on this journey this whole time. Thank you.